So,
Uh, Welcome back. Uh, us here at Out of State DMing. Do apologize for the technical error.
technical.
Um, Besides the fact that we didn't realize that certain audio problem occurred where you couldn't hear my co-host. We fixed that, thankfully.
Hey,
Thankfully. And then shortly after, the reason why we pretty much cut short and vanished was because the
technology.
the internet decided to have a huge hiccup and go, you don't deserve to be on the internet right now. So the interwebs decided not to web. So sorry for the interruption.
Yeah,
Uh,
yes, but do you ever deserve to be on the internet?
I'm gonna choose to ignore that comment because we
Ah.
all that's a rhetorical question and we all know the answer to it. Um, but
You sure it's rhetorical?
thank you for rejoining us. Uh, Just where we left off before the unexpected interruption, where we're talking about the my brain wants to misspell the spell it's called spell misspell their name again. The uh Erdener.
Billionaire?
Yeah, Erdener. Just we're talking about how they can at first glance look a lot like gray elves, which everyone hates. Not elves.
Dwarves. We're
Dwarves.
talking about dwarves.
Um but we're gonna dive into some things. They are kind of shorter than normal dwarves, with the maximum height being 4'6". Uh, but they weigh a lot more. Their standard weight is 180 pounds, which is 30 pounds heavier than a standard dwarf. So they may not be quite as tall, but they are chunky boys.
And girls.
And with a base weight for a female is 150. So the females weigh the same as a hill dwarf male, but not as
Right.
tall. So they're shorter. Boom. Um, but they're also, despite their weight thing, they're not considered as stouty. They're more lean, which
They
is
just
a
have lots of muscle.
yeah. Um, but going into some of the stuff that makes them have that +4 level adjustment, which again is a big level adjustment. Um, they get a +4 against poisons instead of a +2, so it's twice as good as a standard dwarf. Uh, they get the same +2 to Constitution, -2 to Charisma as normal dwarves. They get the Stone Cunning, the bonus to Stoneworking, and Metalworking as normal. Yeah, don't stress it, viewer. Um, our favorite Track and Fire is commented that they kind of wish they shut up earlier to let us know we had that technical glitch. But it's not your
It,
fault.
it,
It's not. That's something you couldn't help. But thank you for showing up anyways. Thank you.
yes.
Yeah,
Thank you for letting us know. Showing up
yeah.
and letting us know is always better than never showing up and going, I'm just going to remain silent and let them flounder.
Yeah. The fact that you not only showed up but you said something, we appreciate a lot. Uh, so don't stress yourself. Don't work yourself into hits for anything like that. Just know that we appreciate it. And that is a big help. While you realize not that helped us fix an immediate problem immediately upon. Well, it wasn't an immediate problem; it was a long-lasting problem. But you pointed out a technical problem that we were able to address when you pointed out. So, thank you. Uh, just thank you. Uh, but yeah, besides all the normal stuff that hill dwarves get, uh, the poison is a +4 instead of a 2, which anyone would love. The next thing they get is, and this, I don't care what anyone says, this is a broken supernatural ability. Stonewalk. They can walk. They can pass through stone and earth as if it were air, which means is that a big boulder blocking our path? They can walk through it. Is that a stone wall? They can walk through it. Is this a dirt mound? Walk through it. Their only restriction when it comes to their weight um, is the maximum amount of gear they can take with them doing this is twice their own body weight. Which,
Still a lot.
if you take into account that their unmodified body weight is 180 pounds, you say that, Hannah, but they're not for that life.
Good job.
I I have problems right now, okay? First a technical glitch, then an internet glitch. My day is not going good. I have a partial sunburn on my face from when I was doing the yard sale, which I shouldn't be touching my face.
But you
I'm
are.
not happy.
This is your fault.
No, it's your fault. You
I'm sure
failed
you know.
to stop me in time.
I can't get in your head and stop your vocal cords.
Yes, you can. You can stop me. You can go, oh,
No.
oh, he's saying something he's not supposed to. Stop. Hey, you're the one with the time machine here.
What?
Don't what me, time
What?
machine man.
Can we get back dwarves?
Yeah, I just recentered her imaging. I hate this.
All you.
I'm good. It is not all me.
It is.
Uh,
Everything's on your end.
no, but like I said, if you take into account that it's twice their body weight, and their unmodified body weight is 180 pounds, that means the minimum gear they can take doing this is 360 pounds minimum, which is like,
That's a lot.
that's a lot. No matter how you spin it, that 180 pounds worth of equipment is a lot to take with you. But 160 minimum is that's a metric load. Um, Not like they need that ability. Their next ability, which is a spell like ability, is they get to at will as an eighth level, I mean, as equivalent to an eighth level sorcerer, cast Stone Shape, which it's like a cubic meter per level, which is like 8 cubic feet of stone they can do every single turn that they can shape, which means if they somehow, for some weird reason, have way too much gear on them, or go, I gotta make sure that stone, whatever, doesn't impede my friends and me. Stone shape a hole. Oh, now I've just warped it so that way we can get through. Wait until everyone gets through, step through, and go, oh, we're being chased by a monster. Stone shape it shut. Like, yay, everyone gets through safety, and I'm sitting here going, I feel good about myself. Now, if that was the end of it, you would still be satisfied with this race. But that's
But
not the
wait,
end of
there's
it.
more.
There's another spell like ability they get. uh, it's a equivalent to an eighth level sorcerer at, at will. Shape metal, which means
So they could jump on somebody's back and ruin their full
yeah,
plate.
it's a non-lethal effect, so you can't. So for anyone watching, you can't go. That's an easy way to kill something. No, it can't. It's harmless. It cannot cause actual harm to whatever you're doing it to. So if you jump on and you slap someone's centerpiece of their full plate, that it's a piece of metal, not the entire suit, because it's separate pieces of metal. You touch it and you go, yay! Now it's gonna warp twist, so that way they hit all its connecting pieces and stuff. Uh, Buckle and break, and causing it to fall off. Therefore, you no longer have functional full plate because it's now broke. So you just lost your huge AC bonus because I just ruined your armor. And that can work on both mundane and magical armor or a magical sword. You just touch the blade. Now it twists, warps, and bends to become a hunk of junk. Does it get a saving throw? Yes, but it doesn't really matter because it's an at will ability. It's a standard action effect, so they can't they do it multiple times or anything like that. No, sorry, not action. It's a full round of effect, so they're spending the entire full round doing it. So like you're losing anything you can do else just to shape their sword. Because once you shape their sword no longer functions. So it's one of those they don't want to fail because unlike an anti-magic field or Mordenkainen's junction, if those things work the way they're supposed to, yeah, your sword doesn't have magic anymore. But shape metal goes, I'm ruining your weapon, causing it to not be a weapon anymore. Therefore, it doesn't matter what's on it; it's not going to function anymore because it's no longer a weapon; it's a twisted hunk of junk. So if you're going to try to use that as a weapon, these no longer counts as a weapon. It's now an improvised weapon, and because it's no longer counted as an actual weapon, a lot of the properties just go away off it. So you just have a magical piece of junk. So you can literally ruin everyone's day simply because you can. Now, not that they're going to, because again, they are not a generally hostile or cruel race. They're generally good and friendly.
But
Uh,
if they're mad, you won't like them when they're angry.
yes. Uh, so it's a pretty deal. Favorite class is expert, which is one of the reasons why they go into it. And like I said, it is uncommon for them to cross class. And when they do cross class, it's either cleric or fighter. Uh, they don't have arcane casters. It's one of those like, you're a wizard? What? Hi, Navi. Or, oh my god, you're a sorcerer. That's why. Uh, because of their undying dedication to the craftsmanship, they're never barbarians because barbarians don't have the patience nor temperament for that. It because they love breaking things. They're more like, why make a weapon when I can go take it from your dead body? Uh, type thing. Uh, they're not really known for being bards, rogues. Uh, Druids are right up there with wizards and sorcerers. Uh, this is like no. Uh, So a big thing is dog, what did you do to your ear? Sit down. Um Navi is trying to get attention because mom's not home right now. No, they're just not fond of going any other route. Uh, so besides the level adjustment, anyone trying to play one has to deal with the fact that they're generally not hostile. Uh, they're prone to cross classing into only fighter and cleric really. So it's like not a big thing to run into ones that aren't that. It's a huh. I didn't realize that type thing situation. Uh, so they are probably the best dwarf simply because one, they don't generally have that animosity. I mean, technically, they still get the racial attack bonus for orcs and goblinoids and the defense bonus against giants, but culturally, they're eh. We don't have to actually fight those things. We don't have to actually combat them. Uh, Anything we do it's like non-confrontational towards a lot of things. So they don't get a ability. I swear, cat, don't knock that down. They don't actually get like a swap in who they get bonuses first, but they just generally get along better with a lot of the other races, and their generalness to just be, I'm really good at this one particular field of expertise, doesn't make them actually that good of adventurers. There's like when it comes to combat, they're like, unless I have to, we're not fighting that. It's like, can we avoid it? If the answer's anything other than no, they're like, we're not fighting it then. Because again, uh, they're not as aggressive as any of the other ones. They're if I have to, we will. Give me a choice, and I'm going to choose not to be that guy. Uh, which they're not above saving people though, because they will save people. They will help people if the entire party's like, oh, we're not going to get away from it because of like this, that, or that. They're not going to go, well, buy then and run away. They're going to go, I'm going to defend my friends. I'm going to stick with them through the thick and thin. I'm not going to enjoy this.
Your internet's acting up again. You just froze for a second.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it
I,
it
I,
only
I,
lasted for a second,
yeah,
but it was there. And you
yeah.
started before your internet crashed the last time. You started. You would freeze for a second or two every randomly.
Well, hopefully it doesn't decide to crash on me because that would suck. Um, Just if it does crash, we're not doing this. We're not attempting a third attempt because that means my internet's going wacky. Because it's supposed to rain today, but it's now windy instead. Here's how windy it is. I can see dirt in this, some dirt, flying. Not like drastically bad dirt, but it's like, huh, is that mist or nope, nope, that's just dirt because it's supposed to be wet right now, not dry.
Right.
Gotta love weird weather.
Yes.
Uh, no. But moving on to the next topic. Uh, when it comes to the variety of dwarves, there's a lot, and I mean a lot. Some of them are world specific, um, while some kind of can be worked in anywhere. It's like for when it comes to Forgotten Realms, there's a bundle of dwarven races that to come to the forefront to become eligible. While there's the Kingdom of Calamars. they have one species that's specific and a alternate version of another type of dwarf. If you're using a tundra, pretty much a frozen wasteland phase, there is Frostburn that includes his race. There's Sandstorm that does one. Races of Stone, which can be pretty much anyone and everywhere, does introduce one. But the core dwarves to run into in generic tabletop, you have your standard hill dwarf, which is the standard for all. A deep dwarf, which is no, not a Durgar. They're same environment, but they're actually they're good guys. Now, they may not necessarily have as much trade or communication with all the other races like the hill dwarves do, but they're still good guys. Then you have the Durgar, also known as the Grey Dwarf or Grey Dwarf. This, if in Forgotten Realms, it mainly goes by Grey. The fourth dwarf to be found generically is Mountain Dwarf, which the only real entry gives there is, yeah, they exist, and you pretty much use hill dwarves to represent those star statistics, and they're just the slightly deeper in the earth than hill dwarves, and they're primarily found in mountain ranges. For some clearances, hill dwarves, you'll actually see like their cities on the surface. You'll be able to go, oh, that's those must be hill dwarves. Dwarves. While mountain dwarves are actually like, in the mountain. You can use your Lord of the Rings for a big reference point of there's mountains there, and there's a dwarven city. People go, where? Oh, the entrance to it is here, and then you have to go through this huge passageway to actually get to it.
Well, actually, the one place that they do show the well
Up in
under the
the Blue
mountain
Mountains.
is
Yeah, yeah, and that you would tech those technically would most likely be mountain dwarfs. Uh, because of they live in the mountain. Um, when you get to Forgotten Realms, they add a bundle in. They still have hill dwarves, and they actually give in their mountain dwarves actual statistics that are similar to hill, but different enough. That's also where you get the dark dwarves, which are similar to the Durgar, but they're actually playable and not actually the bad guys. A big thing with them though is you have to be an asshole. You have to be a dick. You have to be a bully. You, if you're not harassing, making fun of, insulting, and not playfully, but legitly, anyone that's not a dark dwarf, you're not actually playing it directly. Kind of how the Dolly dwarf, you have to be a spineless twit. Dark is you have
Shaggy
to
or
be the
Scooby,
guy. The what?
or Shaggy or Scooby.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the darkest. You have to be the guy no one wants to be around. You have to be the guy that everyone doesn't like. And that's because they have a level of fear that the rest of the races give them, and they capitalize on it because they if you know one doesn't like you if certain accidents start to happen that result in you seriously getting injured or possibly even dying because they're not afraid to nonchalantly set up other races they're traveled with to die. It's also one of the things that if you're fighting a group of bad guys and you're getting outnumbered and getting your butt kicked, and there's a dark dwarf in the party, if he doesn't like you or knows that he can't bully or push you to get his way, he'll let you get ganged up on and die. And he'll go help someone that doesn't need it. Because let's say there's like you you, a dark dwarf, and two other party members, you're being ganged up on by like three ogres, while there's another ogre over there that has two people on it. Guess who he's gonna go help? He's gonna go help those two because he doesn't like you and he knows he can't get his way with you. So he's going to let you get your butt kicked and go fight the single one that's being ganged up on because he's like, mm, I'm not gonna kill you, but I ain't gonna save you. Next is the Goalie Dwarf is introduced in Forgotten Realms, the Cowardly Lion. But also in Forgotten Realms, you have the Arctic Dwarves, which again I like the Arctic Dwarves. They are the uh, oh, and our viewer didn't joined a little too late to learn about them. Uh, they are the strong man of the dwarves because they are not only small size, being around the size of a halfling, but they are like Hercules, Hercules. You also have gold dwarves, which, despite the name, they spend a lot of their time in the Underdark, fighting off everything that's there. And the only real time you see them on the surface is where they on the surface where they like to set up is either directly on or near an entrance to the Underdark because part of their stick is stopping the stuff from the Underdark from getting to the surface. So they're taking up the mantle of being a cork in the pool. Because if you remove them, then everything they were stopping from coming to the surface now is going to try to come to the surface, and there's not much you can do. Oh, the dog did get out of me because the main people that actually have garrisons and or armies set up to stop them aren't actually there anymore because someone went control delete gold dwarves. Then you have the gray on gray, which are Durgar. What they're not introduced, it's just they're primarily called the gray there. You have the shield dwarves, which, other than being a little bit more protective of their allies, there's no real good explanation why they call them that. They they just really like protecting their allies. The Our favorite dwarves are also introduced in the Forgotten Realms, which is another like, because again, they're more of the likable, friendly dwarves, but they're in Forgotten Realms, which is not necessarily known for having super nice things in it. Because if it's super nice, what's the catch? When is it going to stab me in the back? Where's
Tomorrow.
where's where's the hammer? Where's it dropping? So it's
I'm
unusual for a Forgotten Realms race to actually not only cosmetically look and sound like the good guys, but then actually be the good guys. Uh, but then you also have the wild dwarves, which live out in the wilderness. They're not found in the Underdark. They're not found in mountains or hills. They can be found in plains and forests.
But why do they exist?
It Because they wanted to have dwarves in the same general area where they have other races
They have
that had
elves
nothing
for,
to do with mountains or hills.
but that's a dwarf.
Exactly. Uh,
So what you're saying is these dwarves have elf in them.
if you want to say that, yeah. Uh, they're small sized. They get hand axes and blowguns as proficiencies, and it replaces their normal dwarven proficiencies, so they can't use the dwarven war axe or the dwarven urgosh. They get poison use, which is good. They get fire resistance.
So we got on one hand we got cold immunity, and on the other hand we got fire
Yeah.
resistance.
+3 against poison. And wild dwarves are immune to wild dwarf knockout poison. So they're immune to one of their own poisons they make. Uh,
Like,
+4 against disease, which is really good. And it's all types, including magical ones. Uh, they don't get the familiarity with stone or metal. Favorite class barbarian. So they are little vicious barbarians that will use hand axes and blowguns against you that are dipped in poison. And if you go fireball, they're like, we gotta resist fire. Resistance 5 to fire. So You better hope we fail. So they are technically another good dwarf race.
Well, but then you can also do cone of cold, and then they're screwed.
Well, it affects them normally because they're not vulnerable to it. And here's the kicker: they have no level adjustment, so they get a better resist poison because it's a 3 instead of a 2. They get a +4 against diseases, which is something they didn't the normals didn't have. A fire resistance 5, the ability to use poison, so they get several things are increased, or pretty much improved, while gaining several new things without gaining a level adjustment. So it's one of those like, they're technically better than Hill Dwarf, but without the level adjustment. So we're just going to be happy that they don't have that level adjustment. So it's like, yay. Uh, then when we go into some of the other things, in the Kingdom of Kalamar, their mountain dwarves have slightly different statistics. Because instead of it being con bonus to con minus to charisma like the other dwarf, it's like a memory source. It's a bonus to uh, con and a minus to dexterity. So instead of being less charismatic, they're less dodgy. Uh, they have a few other minor differences. Uh, but they're similar enough to be the same, but slightly different enough to be it. So if both versions of the well, yeah, if both versions of the mountain dwarf exist within a realm, it will be more like the mountain dwarves here in this region and the mountain dwarves in this region. They're extremely similar, but not the same. Uh, if you get into the races of stone, they bring in the dream dwarf.
Which is where Sleepy comes from.
Yeah, it's a sleepy because it's like one of their abilities is dream sight, and it helps them better see ethereal creatures. So if there's an ethereal creature that uses using ethereal abilities to be blurry or not quite there, because ethereal creatures be ethereal creatures, dream dwarfs go, I see you perfectly. Welcome to the material plane. Another thing that sets them apart is their favorite class, druid. They are literally a druidic dwarves. They love nature, so they have a lot of similarities to the wild ones. But instead of being we're barbarians, we're gonna break something while poisoning you. There, uh, we like to dream because we're connected to the dreaming stuff. And we like nature a lot because
So
uh, they're
this
the
is the
hippies
race,
of the dwarves.
and this is and if somebody wants to play a druidic dwarf, this is the race for them.
Well, yeah, it's a dwarf for them. This is a dwarf about that.
But then they're sleeping like most of the time anyway. So
Well, they're not actually dreaming there. They just are heavy associated with it. Uh, if you're in any sort of sandy or desert thing regions where you can apply the sandstorm book, there is the Badlands dwarves, which don't have the metal or stoneworking stuff as normal dwarves because it's sandy wasteland environments. Hence the name Badlands. But they have a lot of the same similarities and stuff as hill dwarves, but in deserts. So there's certain regions like in my personal world where it's nothing but a big wasteland. If I were to throw in dwarves and like what dwarves am I going to use and where am I going to put them, I could put I could theoretically go, I'm going to use Badland Dwarves, and I'm going to put them here.
You should.
Uh, that will be a thing for like later installments when I'm trying to revise or find something to mix into, mix it up a bit. But that's in the future.
You now have huge glare over your right shoulder.
Is
Going
that
down.
better?
It's still there.
Well, that's because the light is like I'm poking a light.
Yes, you are.
Ooh. Ooh. Gotta be a little bit kinky with it. Um, the next dwarf is introduced from Frostborn, and it's another cold region dwarf. It has a lot of similarities to the Arctic dwarf, and this is the glacier dwarf. They're normal sized dwarves, and just like the Arctic dwarf, they got rid of the metalworking and stoneworking and replaced it with snow and ice working. So, it just like the Arctic dwarf, if I was trying to, let's say, I wanted to add a wanted and add these dwarves in my world, I would use the frozen north region to throw them in because they would suit that terrain a lot. And I could go over here's where you find the Arctic, over here's where you find the glacier. Because one of the big differences that glacier dwarves like living on and in ice, not just like thin ice, but big glaciers ice. So some of the frozen terrain up there fits them perfectly. It's like, oh, here's huge swaths of frozen ice. They would love to do this stuff, all that stuff there. They're also are immune to cold,
So that's where who's
or not
actually
immune to
living
cold.
at home.
Yeah, so it's like they're up there. They're up there living it. Um, Now a thing I will note that these 15 different dwarven species are probably the tip of the iceberg because when I was like, when I wanted to look up more dwarves, different dwarves, not just a generic hill dwarf. I know there's a lot of dwarves out there. What are some of these other dwarves? I stopped at 7 books.
Who knew there was
Ha ha
15
ha!
different
Tip
types
of
of
the
dwarf?
iceberg. That is funny. Ah, thank you for that. It is the tip of the iceberg because we were talking about ice-based stuff, so it is the tip of the iceberg. Ah,
Yes.
dwarven puns. But these are, I said, these are 7 different dwarves. Uh, Not seven, but 15 different dwarves coming from
And who knew there were that
7
many types of
different
dwarves?
books. I knew there was a lot of dwarves, but I didn't really quite know. It's like I thought it was like, well, I know there's like this one here, that one there, that one there. There's probably more, but I didn't really expect 15. And again, this is from 7 books. There's like 100 or so books for 3.5, and not all of them have racial stuff in them. Some of them just have other stuff. So there's a good chance that there's even more dwarves out there. That also being said, uh, the core book, when it does the mention for mountain dwarves, it wants you to use the hill dwarf statistics. In Forgotten Realms, they have their own statistics. In the Kingdoms of Kalimar, they have their own statistics, which technically means there's not 15 different dwarves I found. There's technically 17 because there's 3 different versions of Mountain Dwarf. Does even the Grey Dwarf and the Durgar have the same stuff? They're just the same. It's just in one realm, they're primarily called Grey. So it's like, yes, that's a lot of dwarves. Does, like I said, when I was doing the research thing, does uh, I don't like coming in here like half cocked or just like I only have this one round in my revolver. No, I just loaded up a 15 round mag in my Glock and just unloaded them. So it's like I'm pretty sure there's a lot more, and there's several dwarf like races. There is one dwarf that instead of a V, it's an F, and it looks like a dwarf, it acts like a dwarf, but it's an outsider. Midgard, Midgard dwarf, and they literally are pretty much an outsider version of a dwarf. The Illumi, to a certain degree, are share similarities to dwarves, with the obvious exceptions of one, they're outsiders, two, they're made of light, and three, they don't have necks, but they pretty much have the same general build and sometimes can uh, be treated as dwarves because like they're another like they might as well be a celestial version of a dwarf. So that there's just a lot of dwarves, and if I were to decide to sit down and start digging through all of the other books, I could find more. Because again, I didn't go through all like 100 books. I didn't go through all the books I knew there would be monsters. I just went through maybe 15 books that I knew monsters were in. Mainly because I know I've seen stuff for dwarfs in at least some of these books. So then I stopped and did it. Which another thing, and you're gonna probably laugh at this because it's something I decided to look into. You know how there's a difference in true dragons versus non-true dragons?
Right, the pseudo dragon.
Yeah, the true dragon, which is like wyverns, drakes, landworms. Those are all subspecies of dragons.
Right.
But there's a laundry list of true dragons. Just in 3.5, can you take a guess on how many different species of true dragon there are?
Six.
No. Well, the initial set you get are 10, and it's the 5 chromatic and the 5 metallic.
Right.
There's a lot more, and I'll give you a hint. The number is the same number that a lot of people refer to as a sexual position.
Wow.
Do you know what that number is?
Yes, 69.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of different species.
But why? Why? There's no need for 69 different types of dragon.
I'm going to that off. I thought I heard something. Um, you would say that, but that is including one technical third party book that technically counts because even though it's technically third party, it is a official one. It's still technically official, but that it's a lot. Um, there's planar, elemental, a few more colors for the chromatic. A lot of ones with with object names in it, like sand. So there's a lot.
Right.
Um, it's like, and that's only if you're including 3.5, and because I don't have all the PDFs, there's a few other PDFs out there that probably have some more dragon types in it, but that's just the ones I've come across. And if you expand the list to non 3.5 books that can be technically considered compatible, you expand the list by like almost 20.
Too
Because if
many.
you go into Pathfinder, there's the Imperials, which is pretty much Oriental dragons, even though there's the Oriental 315 Orientals book that has its own dragons in it, which those dragons work differently than other dragons.
Of course they do.
Well, it's because the lung dragons all start as one type of dragon. That depending on environmental location, which is like 75% of what they end up growing up into, and at 25% what they do depends on one of the what one of the seven other dragons they morph into when they reach adulthood. So they're all pretty much when they're children and juveniles, they're all the same. But then once they reach a certain point, it's like how Eevee in Pokemon has what way too many uh things to evolve into, depending on if you use like a stone or certain environmental, not environmental, but circumstantial conditions. The lung dragons can be put in there. Um, and my nose has been funny. Uh, so like the dwarves have definitely fallen into that. Why so many different types? Why? And the funny thing is, like I said, the gray make out of those seven books make two appearances in those books. The hills make three. The mountain make three. The rest are all singular. And um, for the most part, that's not counting like Eberron, because I know Eberron has hill dwarves. I know they have Durgar. So yeah, so the gray, I know they have. I'm pretty sure they don't have any new species, but I didn't decide to go digging through it because I do have access to that book. There's We Have Forgotten Realms, stuff like that. So there are several other realms that technically, like Dark Sun, might have another couple in there. So there is a couple other books to technically check to see if they have any additions or variants, but just off of where I stopped, that's a rabbit hole, a obviously pretty deep rabbit hole. 15 is a large number of dwarves,
Too many.
which technically, if you count the three different versions of one type, it's technically 17. Because, like I said, the mountain dwarves are technically different per appearance. It's just why?
I don't know. You tell me.
Uh, dwarves to fill certain environmental niches. Uh, because technically, the Arctic and Glacier fill cold regions. Uh, Badlands is desert or wastelands. Technically, dark, deep, gray, gold, under and underdark to borderline underdark. Uh, Dream wilderness areas, just like wild. Uh, Mountain and hills are the ones you mainly run into on the surface because they're all over the place. Goalie are too busy, running and hiding from everything. And Shields is too busy trying to be your best man. As I said from what I remember reading from them, is they're pretty big on if you are their ally, their goal is to keep to actually make sure you're safe and you don't have problems. So if you get hurt in this thing and there's a shield dwarf there and he is your friend, he'll go, "Let me help you back up on your feet. Let's get you taken care of." "Oh, is that a monster? Well, I'm able to fight. You obviously have an injury. I'll go beat him up so you don't have to." So it's kind of like if the dark are the bullies, the shield are the anti-bully.
They're the goody two shoes.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say goody two shoes. They're just. I mean, yeah, they would make probably good paladins because the paladins like to protect. They like to defeat the bad guy. They like to make sure their friends are okay. So there is a variety of different dwarves to help fit multiple niches and playstyles. Uh, because that second last episode, well, pretty much in episode one, where the human is, it's everywhere, it's everything. There's nothing that can't be. Dwarves, it all depends on what dwarf species you're playing. Depends on what niche you're trying to pull off, what play style you're coming in. Just each one comes with its own role play problems, its own role play catches. If you're not playing into it, then you're not doing it correctly, and you can't be penalized. Because again, it's a role playing game. That's why it's called an RPG. And all of these different dwarves have their own play style. They have their own niche. They have their own. We're gonna go do this and this and this because this and this and this. So you got to try your best to play into it. You got to try your best to do it. So while humans have more role play potential in anything, because they're not limited to anything, dwarves are limited to class. Because if you try to cross class with the wrong type of dwarf, then you can end up getting XP penalties. Or like our favorite dwarf, who's like, I'm an expert, and that's really all I want to be. Not an expert at killing stuff. It's like, I'm an expert at this occupation. I'm an expert at this job. This is what I do, and I'm really, really good at it.
So you have to hire him out, and if you want him to go adventuring with you.
Yeah, but pretty much, and the only ones that are actually going to go and do that would be an expert field guide. His entire job is leading people from point A to point B. Uh, a cartographer.
With the bonus of being able to go through stuff instead of around.
Well, if it's made out of earth or stone, technically, yeah. Uh, and like I said, another weird thing is where they dwell is underground, which is another weird thing to why they're it's like why are they so friendly and peaceful? Because their primary territories they're found in is the Underdark. Do
And
you
we all know
see
how dangerous the Underdark
it?
is.
They are an enigma. It is literally part of their thing. Is they don't actually defend their territories because no one. It's like they don't have to because where they're at is never under threat, and it doesn't actually justify it by going it's because of this or because of that. It's just they just aren't. So it's like it's the Underdark. You're telling me there's a friendly race down there that isn't. They're like the capybaras of the Underdark. Everything loves the capybara. Even things that sometimes eat the capybara still like the capybara. Like you can see the caiman swimming around, and there's a capybara on top of it. There'd be like a embankment with lots of caiman and stuff on it, and there's a bundle of capybaras just hanging out with them, like it's no problem. Because they're like, yeah, they can be found in hostile environments. They can be found in and around things that can and will and on occasion do eat them, but they don't care. So that's like a perfect example if you want to compare it to something, the capybara. Everyone likes them, even things that eat them. So they just it's weird. It's kind of how humans are weird because they can be anywhere and everywhere. There's they're the everyone's second best friend. Dwarves, depending on species, are just whatever the hell they want. Uh, yeah. Any questions or anything? Did you hear me?
Me? Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
you all the
Well,
time.
why I said any questions?
I didn't
Because
realize you were talking.
our viewer answered before you did. Because I'm like, did I
I didn't
freeze for
realize you
you?
were talking to me. No, you answered all the questions that I was going to come up with before I was able to ask the questions.
Well, I wasn't aiming to answer your questions before they were asked.
But you did.
Well, viewer, are you sure you don't have at least one question, viewer? Because you're being very interactive with us, and I appreciate that.
You just want to keep rambling.
Somewhat. What's my favorite dwarf? The right now it's the Erden. Does Like I said, they're the capybara of the Underdark right now. They they're just that cool. It's like they have neat abilities. They're
They're that broke.
you technically say they're that broke, but it's not the brokenness. It's the fact that it's a combination of certain abilities that would make them really great in place of other dwarves, mixed in with the roleplay application of they're just not hostile, they're not aggressive, they're not mean or anything. They're I'll defend myself and my friends if I need to, but do we have to fight?
Yes.
So that uniqueness of them not being on the same level of F around and find out that the other ones are. Now, unlike the other ones, because they're primarily surrounded by stone, if you want to F around and find out, you're going to F around and you're going to find out because, like, I'm touching stone, aren't I? Because I can affect X amount of stone, oh, are you now imprisoned in stone? Because I created a prison box around you that's going to take you time to get out of. And as you're trying to get out of, I'm just going to reinforce it and, you know, reinforce it and then reinforce it and then reinforce it and then reinforce it. Can someone start boiling some hot water? Or, hey, because he wants to F around and mess out, I want to get a few evil points. How? Well, starters, I have 5 flasks of oil. He's stuck in a box. Stone shape a spout and a hole going in. There's one vial. There's 2 to 4. Well, see, what I have it doing is so when I pour in here, it goes here and spreads and it starts to drop down like a shower. What are you going to do then? Put a small hole and drop a tinder twig in it. So you're just going to hotbox him. Yes. I'm gonna call it that because I realized what I just set it up, and I apologize for those who get it. But my
Yay.
brain just realized I went somewhere bad. It's like I'm evil points. Ah! I won't make certain jokes
You're
now
full of
because I
evil
just
points.
walked into a whole list of jokes that they can technically pull off, but it will turn them from these guys are good guys to how to play an evil guy that's not supposed to be evil. I'll make those jokes later off stream because I can't get in trouble to them if no one knows. If there's no proof I said it. Um.
Are we done rambling?
Yes.
Okay.
We went over lots of stuff with dwarves. We got to have some fun interactions with the viewer, which is much appreciated. Uh, fix a
Please
technical
keep
problem.
viewing. As bad as this is, please keep viewing.
That I enjoy, especially when they're interactive. That right there is making me happy. It's not just that they're watching; it's they're actually being interactive. I That makes me feel special. Because
Yes.
it's like, yes, I'll enjoy a lot more people watching, but at the same time, I rather, even if it's 100 people watching, if at least one of them is being interactive, I'm gonna enjoy that. I'm gonna like have a ball with that. I'm gonna go. You're the bomb to that one person that's interacting, while everyone else is go. Why aren't we the bomb? It's like because you're not interacting. It's like because the OBS Studio music, it's not telling me how many people I have watching me. So unless someone says something, I have no idea if someone's watching until someone enters chat. So the fact that someone is watching and entering chat, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Uh, but thank you for watching Out of State DMing. Again, I am your host, Lux Blackheart, and this is my co-host.
Iskian.
Uh, we appreciate your viewing, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
Yes, because
Uh,
Saturday.
Thank you and good night. Dun, dun, dun.